So, hi guys, Tim and Toby here, back with the second episode of the How Germany Was Winning the War. And now this episode, episode 2, we'll be talking about the very famous May 1940 invasion. That is to say, the German blitzkrieging invasion through the Low Countries, Holland, Luxembourg, Belgium, and more importantly, France. So it all really kicked off on the 9th/10th of May 1940, when Germany, using, Panzer 1s and 2s, or by that time really Panzer 2s, German infantry and of course Stukas, like this model here, little, kind of die-cast model, basically ravaged through France, smashed down houses, and had to basically send a lot of French civilians fleeing in many different places. Now, as we spoke in the earlier, episode 1 about the invasion of Poland, by kind of mid-September 1939, the British Expeditionary Force had already had some forward thinking and already sent their troops over to France, the Franco-Belgian border, to await this German onslaught, which of course didn't come in 1939, came a year later in 1940. So all they did was just to sit down, drink tea, whatever, build trenches, dig in, gun emplacements, training, you name it, the lot, just to wait. Which of course, they had a lot of time to prepare, but of course, as Germany at the time with the modern, which was really modern at the time, blitzkrieg tactics and warfare, it literally just pushed the whole British army out of France. Completely, really. So what you're looking at is basically a German bottleneck manoeuvre to push the French and the British troops out to places called, the beachhead called Calais and Dunkirk. Now, the British basically were on the retreat to a breach pocket. Most of them went to Calais, but Calais was already taken by the Germans, so the next best place was the very famous Dunkirk pocket, the beaches of Dunkirk. And now, of course, there were battles like the Second Battle of Arras in May 1940 and other little battles like that during France, but when we get up to late May, early June 1940, the British, French were in retreat to Dunkirk. The Germans have basically come out from that side and then come out from that side and kind of bottlenecked the French and British into the Dunkirk pocket, and that's where they lie and stay for until kind of early June time. But if we go actually more to inland, there were still some regiments actually and infantry divisions actually still in mainland France trying to hold off. So, for example, the men of the 51st Highlanders Infantry Division were basically trying to fight their own battle, defending off the Germans whilst they got back to Dunkirk. But the thing is, the Germans had already cut them off from the main body of troops going back to Dunkirk, so they had to escape another way, and they escaped to a little kind of fishing village called St. Valery. And now, when they're at St. Valery, they couldn't really do much, then just surrender to the Germans. That's what the 51st Highlanders did. And now, I will talk a bit more about the Germans pushed to Dunkirk, but Toby's just going to tell you about the very same incident, similar incident, but happened with the Royal Norfolk Regiment. So, Toby?
Okay, so the Royal Norfolk Regiment, having fought for days on end with virtually no reinforcements, these people, constituted how many? Probably about 150 men. Yeah, 99 by the end of it. 99, I think, by the end of it. Were stuck, basically, and they fought to the very last against a unit called the SS Totenkopf unit, which was the 3rd SS. Now, France 1940 was very unique, as in it's the only time on the Western Front where all three of the original Waffen-SS divisions were all together. And they weren't actually that effective at that stage. They were incredibly poor in performance, but they were seriously fanatical. And as a result, when the Royal Norfolk surrendered, they marched them up to a barn and had all of them shot. Only 2 people survived to be taken prisoner by another German unit, and it just does show the kind of inhumanity of these people, and that can never really be forgotten at all. You know, SS Totenkopf was probably one of the worst, if maybe the worst, SS unit for war crimes for the entire war, so, you know, they had a record of extreme brutality, so, yeah, just lest we forget, lest we forget.
Right, thanks Toby, thanks for that. Now, whilst the British and French were actually sitting down having a nice pleasant time on a you know, a beach of, you know, Dunkirk, they were also getting dive bombed by the at the time brand new dive bomber, the Junkers 87 Stuka, or Junkers 87B Stuka aircraft, which had a massive, basically, war cry when it came down, because it basically uses a propeller that moves a cog that generates the noise when it dives down. And this, as I said, is a little model of a Stuka 87B, which is at the time. And now every half an hour, these Stukas came down in the packs of 3, because they flew in packs of 3 and dived down. And you see the bomb on there, packs of 3, and when they dived down, they made a racket. Basically, it drove the enemy out, you know, using the sound into submission to really cut their ears, panic, and suddenly a bomb falls next to them and kills them. That's, in a nutshell, how it was. So they came down, the Stuka dive bombers basically came down every half an hour, because they had to go back and refit their bombs and refuel as well. So every half an hour, you know, the British and French troops got their comeuppance by the Germans. So, to cut a long story short, the Royal Navy couldn't send any big battleships or flotillas to pick any troops up, because they'll be in basically firing range of German guns who were set up off the coast of France, or just inland off from France, so they'll be a prime target. Of course, when the tide comes in, they're washed up on shore, so anybody can grab hold of a ship and take it, which was, you know, bad news. So what they did was sent out these little ships, and they were called the Little Ships of Dunkirk, a couple thousand of them, to pick up the French and British troops, then to haul them back to the main ships, to then get those British-French soldiers onto the main ships, for the main ships to take them home. And actually, just to say, the smallest ever little ships of Dunkirk, the smallest ever shipping fishing vessel to ever pick up soldiers, was 5'5" in length, which was quite a small, you know, height. Not small, you know, very small for a boat. So, you know, it quite struggled for picking up a lot of men. But yeah, so then we cut a long story short, Britain and France, well, technically Britain has evacuated 338,000 of their troops, and they were back home, you know, in the warmth. For France, they evacuated roughly about 113,000 of their own men, and in doing so, they had lost supplies, ammunition, guns, everything they had lost. Which is the reason why the Sten gun was kind of created a year later, but just before that, the reason why the Americans bought and used the Thompson submachine gun, because they needed arms after Dunkirk, because all their arms had basically collapsed, had gone, so that, and of course the Lend-Lease program and all that to supplement the British Army with weapons. But that's another story. So basically, when Britain came home, they thought that they had done everything they could and they had failed. But when they came home, they were met with cheers and flags flying and everything, because us civilians saw them as heroes. They'd gone there to try and do a purpose. They hadn't done it, but they came back. Well, 338,000 of them were evacuated, and they were unscathed. So yeah, Dunkirk is a very great big evacuation. It was also called Operation Dynamo, because the underground Dover naval base was powered. Its lights was powered by dynamo electronics, so they nicknamed this Operation Dynamo. So that's really everything to say. Also, again about the Royal Norfolk Regiment. It's the 1st Battalion of the Royal Norfolk Regiment who were on the beaches of Dunkirk, as well as men from the 1st Battalion Suffolk Regiment as well, but loads of other regiments as well. So is there anything, Toby, you want to sum up before the video ends?
I don't really think so. I think you've put it very well yourself, so I'll let you sign off.
Right, okay. Well, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next part, next episode, which is episode 3, which will be on the German takeover or invasion of Yugoslavia. So, thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one, and we'll see you in the next video.